sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to a very festive episode of My Sister's a Therapist. My name's Virginia Jones. I'm a stand-up comedian, but my sister's a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan, licensed marriage and family therapist, and my sister, Virginia Jones, is a stand-up comedian.
So this week it's Laura's turn to the topic. Laura, what is the topic you have brought for us today?
Today we have a very festive topic, the holidays and mental health.
The holidays. You can't escape them. And you just have to survive sometimes.
They just keep coming.
They just keep coming. They don't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. Okay.
The holidays, they don't stop until you do.
Somebody needs to brand that. Okay. So the holidays and mental health. This is an article that I read. How the holidays impact mental health. They're talking about the Christmas effect. The holiday festivities could make anyone feel isolated, especially if others don't understand what they're going through. For example, some individuals are separated from their families, or they may be sick and alone in a hospital, so they feel lonely. Invitations to celebrations or social media posts could also result in making negative comparisons. So, Virginia, have you ever found yourself looking at other people's social media posts, making negative comparisons?
Sure. I find the hard thing about the holidays social media posts is it feels like there's a million Christmas parties that I just wasn't invited to.
Yes. There's a lot of FOMO happening.
A lot of FOMO.
I think that's within a block from my house, and they just didn't even
think of it. Huh. Wow, they're a comedian. I'm a comedian. I could have been there. I would have liked to have had some punch or whatever. Yeah. So FOMO for parties, but also, FOMO for if you come from a dysfunctional family background, which is most of us, like seeing people at least making the performance of a functional family background. I'm like, wow, they look nice. All their sweaters are matching.
Right.
Everybody's having a nice time. I wish my family had been like that.
Sometimes I've done that before. I've thought, why can't I have a healthy family? Why can't I have, why can't I have a family who celebrate the holidays in a way that I would consider normal? So I think that a lot of people believe that other people are having more fun than they are, and it results in kind of negative thinking. I remember I saw this picture of my younger sister, and she had broken her arm recently, but she was in this beautiful dance club. The lighting was perfect. She had on this kind of like fur stole, and she was with these other girls, very glamorous, and they were holding up these champagne glasses. And I remember thinking, oh gosh, she's having so much fun. And
she's got it all.
She's got it all. And I called her the next day and I said, oh my gosh, it looks like you had an amazing night out. And she said, oh no, my arm was killing me. I went in that club for like 10 minutes out of obligation. I did the toast and then I went home and took some painkillers. But it really, to the outside, to the untrained eye, the social media can really trick us into believing that everyone has a happy family, everyone's having the best time ever, and we're FOMOing.
Everyone has a happy relationship. Everyone's having a great time with their kids. Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of pressure, I think, in the holiday season to be coupled and partnered. So I think there's a lot of sadness if you're not coupled.
I did a comedy show last night where just as it happens, a bunch of us had just broken up with someone. And so I shared a little bit about my breakup. My friend Dan had broken up with someone. My friend Jeff had broken up with someone. And a married guy was like, wow, it's really all of a sudden. And I'm like, well, it is and it isn't. Because in real life, we're coming up on Thanksgiving. And I'm like, you have to break up with them before Thanksgiving. Because if you don't, you are stuck until basically Valentine's Day. Like you can't dump someone on Christmas.
It's interesting that you say that because someone was kind enough to dump me 2 years ago on December, 13th?
Oh, wow. Was that the one where you were uninvited from their family Christmas, but informed that you could still date?
Yes, he was kind enough to uninvite me from Christmas. But he just thought, we're still going to be together. This isn't a breakup.
Right. It's just that I've really backed up where you are in my life and, where, like, whether or not I would like to do to my family, but we can still have sex and have dinner.
Right. And you also, me, has no plans for Christmas because it's December 13th.
Right. Pretty cool.
It was great. It was a good time. So the Christmas effect on psychopathology was a study done by Randy and Laurie Sansone. It's a 1980 study of Chicago area college students. They investigated 420 participants with regard to their feelings about the holiday season. The three most endorsed study themes were loneliness, anxiety, and helplessness. Peretti concluded that one of the most relevant factors in Christmas depression is an individual's belief in the myth that everyone else is having a great time and engaged in loving family relationships. Clearly a wish, but Christmas exhibits a general protective effect. The person that, took their life with regard to many forms of psychopathology, except when it comes to mood disorders and alcohol-related poisonings.
Okay. Will you explain that a little bit more? So Christmas is the most depressing time of the year. So suicide rates go up, et cetera. But like when you say it puts a damper on psychopathologies, what does that mean?
What that means is that during the actual Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve, there's there's a drop in suicidal behavior. There's a drop in trips to the ER. Right after that's all over, there's a huge spike. Because I think that people are extremely sad, but they're still having to show up for holiday functions, et cetera. And they don't want to be the person that, took their life at Christmas.
A friend of mine from the early days of comedy, her name was Holly, and she was named after Christmas Holly. And her dad did take his own life on Christmas. So it was a fun holiday for her.
It sounds like a real treat.
It's interesting that we're talking about functional and dysfunctional families because our family Christmases were, I think when we were little kids, they were pretty good. Mom was really trying. But then after the divorce, like no one was picking up the slack.
Mom and dad,
yeah,
I think both just sort of gave up on holidays.
And then my response has been what my response always is, which is, well, this is a dumb thing anyway, and I don't care about it. And then Laura and Emily entered into this unholy Oprah-like cabal to start ramping up Christmas and like really put a lot into it. And it's amazing, but like every year it was getting more and more intense. And I still don't 100% understand it.
I think it's funny that you're referring to it as if it's in the past. It continues. I think we've both just had different responses to trauma, right? Is that I think you've decided, okay, well, my parents didn't value Christmas, so I'm not going to value Christmas. And I think what I've done is F that S. I'm going to go into Christmas overdrive and create a magical Christmas for my child. And I'm going to pick up the slack from where my parents dropped the ball.
And I'm going to make Christmas important because it's important to me. Like I'm going to lean in, make it an event because I want to.
Right. I'm going to make it because for me, Christmas to me was like really, I'm not going to say it was the only good time in our family, but it was one of the, few really good times that we came together as a family. So I really like the specialness of it. And I think that's why I've kind of overcorrected. It's the same with photos. Like I had a previous boyfriend who really mocked. He said my living room looked like the walls of Olin Mills. And again, it's the same. It's for the same reason. I have one photo of my family together, like all of the members, because my parents got divorced right after that photo was taken. So, and I have like, a smattering of photos of my entire childhood. And I think I've just overcorrected for that. So I was doing some research for this topic and I was looking at why do we care about Christmas? Why is it a thing? Why is it so important? And I was looking at the actual history of like where Christmas comes from. And it actually comes from Babylon. So the story was that Nimrod, the king, died. He was murdered and his wife had an affair and she got pregnant and she claimed that her baby was the new incarnation of Nimrod and that he was the god of the sun. So they call this woman his mother wife because she both married him and then gave birth to him. And she propagated a doctrine that Nimrod was a spiritual being. She claimed a full-grown evergreen tree sprang overnight from a dead tree stump, which symbolized the springing forth onto new life of the dead Nimrod. On each anniversary of his birth, she claimed that Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts upon it. December 25th was the birthday of Nimrod, and that is the real origin of the Christmas tree. That came from David J. Stewart, Plain Truth About Christmas.
And I think that story has been told again and again as Yule and as all these kind of different European traditions.
But yes, you are correct about the Yule log. Traditionally, a Yule log was burned in the fireplace on Christmas Eve. And during the night, as the log's embers died, there appeared in the room, as if by magic, this is magic. This is the magic of Christmas. A tree surrounded by gifts. The Yule log represented the sun god Nimrod, and the Christmas tree represented himself resurrected as his own son, Tammuz. That comes from Where Did We Get Our Ideas by John A. Sarkett.
In the Swedish Christmas tradition, just speaking of Yule logs and things on fire, so the Swedes are super into this goat, and there's one Christmas goat that gets built every year, and they plan to burn it on Christmas, but it sometimes pranksters, like frequently the goat does not make it to Christmas. So hello, Burning Man, everything comes from something. But is it
like a paper mache goat or an actual?
No, he's made of straw and he's huge. He's as big as a house and he's this big Yule goat. But, but there's also the little straw ones that you'll see at like IKEA, the little decorative.
But what is the goat? How does the goat connect to Christmas?
He's just a Christmas goat. You can't question it. But the other thing that can happen, so my Swedish voice coach, Emma, used to tell me that a prank that you do at Christmas is you hide a goat in someone's house.
A live goat?
Not a real one, a little straw goat. You hide it in someone's house and then they find it and then they have to hide it in someone else's house. So it travels. And she said, another fun prank is and this is after you've been drinking, you knock on your friend's door, and when they open it, you throw a flaming log into their house or like a cinder, and then they have to go find it or their house burns down.
Well, yeah, you just reminded me. Our sister Emily and I went to a bunch of Christmas bazaars because, as you said, we are very Christmas oriented. So we were in Prague one year in November, and so we decided, let's go to some Christmas things. And we found out about Befana, who is a witch in Italian Christmas, because I kept seeing this witch like with the ornaments. And I thought, what does she have to do with anything? But according to the Italians, La Befana hangs up socks filled with small delights. So I guess that's where our idea of stockings comes from. She's a kindly witch bringing gifts to good little children and depositing them in stockings hung above the hearth.
And then, of course, in France, we have the tradition of Black Peter, who is Santa's helper, but also for hundreds and hundreds of years, French people have been doing blackface on Christmas. It's just part of it.
You had to make it racial.
It's just part of it.
So speaking of history, Christmas history, this was like a funny Christmas history TikTok that I watched. Cool way of celebrating Christmas. Most popular ways to celebrate included looting, sexual exploits, and mummering. Are you familiar with mummering?
Oh, yes, I'm familiar. It happens in Philadelphia today.
At Christmas?
It is at Christmas.
Okay.
The Mummers Parade is something that happens at Christmas. Why don't you tell the people about mummers?
According to Carter's Condensed History, it's basically gender-bending, drunk adult trick-or-treating. So when I was having that really bad Christmas a couple of years ago, I kept thinking, what do I care? This holiday is about, dressing like a lady if you're a man, I guess, and a man if you're a lady, and being drunk. So why do I care? So yes, Charles Dickens lifted its traditions from vulgarity to piety for the holly jolly holiday we have today. It was first recognized. This is another piece. Christmas wasn't even recognized as a U.S. holiday until 1870.
So many things that we do and we think of as being thousands of years old are from the Victorian era. So yeah, before Charles Dickens, Christmas was a drinking holiday for adult men. Also, weddings, as we think of them today with the white dress and the pomp and circumstance, that comes from Queen Victoria. Like before that, you would just get married in your nicest dress and have a party.
It would be a colored dress.
But another thing that we do associate with Christmas that is very new is Santa Claus in his red suit. I think that everybody who's picked up a smartphone knows that was out of advertising from the Coca-Cola Corporation. They're like, oh, well, how can we use this image of this jolly fat man to sell more Coke?
So, Virginia, are you familiar with the term cuffing season?
Well, yes, I am familiar with that. We've been partnered and we've been single during Christmas, and it eats very differently for each category. If you are partnered during Christmas, you tend to stay partnered through to spring, because like at Thanksgiving, if you're together, like you can't break up with someone with Christmas unless they're a real weirdo like your ex. You're not going to break up before New Year's. And then if you're at New Year's, like, well, you can't break up with someone right before Valentine's Day. Although my husband did ask me for a divorce on Valentine's Day.
So it looks like you and I have excellent luck when it comes to cuffing season.
We really do. But yeah, there's a tendency to, it gets cold. In most places, you want to stay indoors. You want to do more cozy stuff. You want to go to parties with somebody. And so sometimes there are partnerships that will kind of form around that. Now, having been a single person, there's another phenomenon that happens around the holidays. That is the last chance, guys. We call it ghosting and then subsequently
getting zombied.
But it's a real specific holiday zombie. Like if you've been on the apps, you'll hear from every guy pretty much that you've been on 1 date, 2 dates with over the last 2 years, because they're bored, like they're looking around, they don't have anybody. And they're like, well, maybe they want to hook up a little bit before the end of the year. Like they don't want to date you any more than they ever did.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I think that the desperation is in the air and there's a sense that they should be coupled. And so they're like, well, because I remember very specifically, I had dated this guy. I had gone on 6 dates with this guy.
Wow.
So it was, consistent. And I thought it was going to lead to a relationship. And then he sort of inexplicably disappeared. And I did not hear from him again until Thanksgiving.
Weird.
Yeah. And it was like the day before Thanksgiving. I remember I was preparing the Thanksgiving meal. I was getting it ready with a new boyfriend. And this guy rolls out a text just asking me what I've been up to for many months. What is cuffing season? Well, Chamin Ajjan, Ajjan, LCSW, wrote an article called The Dynamics of Love. And she said people also tend to feel lonelier when the days get shorter and colder. People head straight home from the places they absolutely have to go, like work, school, or Starbucks. And this makes socializing a little more difficult, and feelings of isolation can start to set in. For many, the solution to this problem is finding a guaranteed special somebody who will be there with you just as soon as your fingers can text, "Come over, baby." So, yeah, I think I do, as a single woman, I do notice during the holiday season that there is a feeling of desperation in the air. I mean, I remember going to this Christmas party one year. Another woman was there and she was also single. And I remember I had just met her that night and she was just crying about how lonely she was. And she ended up finding a super inappropriate guy at the party and hooking up with him.
Yep. I read somewhere that if a woman has not had sex in the calendar year, her odds of having sex over Christmas and New Year's go up. And I think that informs this phenomenon as well. Because dudes feel it. They're like, there's an opportunity here for me to hook up with a lady. There's a very great Christmas party that I am invited to every year. There is always a costume party. It happens on Christmas Day and it goes all day. And there's a potluck, there's dancing, all kinds of stuff. I used to have a roommate. And one year I couldn't attend this party, but I was like, you can go. It's a really good time. And as it happens, she was in a manic state and she was hypersexual. And so she went to this party. She did hook up with a dude and then he never messaged her and she was kind of salty about it and, talked to me about it. The next year I go to the party. This same dude starts hitting on me. I'm like, hey, brother, I've heard this story.
Sir, I know you think this is your lucky day, but I assure you that this day is not your lucky day.
There's no luck involved. I'm like, and I said to him, oh, do you remember this person's name? And his eyes got big as saucers. I'm like, yeah, this is a repeat of last year. And no, thank you. And this is just your hunting ground, bro.
Well, I wonder to myself, how many years did that happen for him in a row? You know, maybe she was year 15. So yeah, the psychology of cuffing season and why we crave human contact in colder months by Michelle Thiel. She said, she's referring to Evelyn Richards, who wrote in her explainer on cuffing season, there's a timeline to this festive mating dance. October is the time for tryouts as you assess your roster of contenders for an autumn-winter mate to cuff yourself to. You then select your Christmas commitment in November, hunker down from December through February, and break it off in March.
So do you think that people are that conscious about this pattern?
I don't think they're conscious about it. I think they're just, it just happens every year. I mean, it's interesting because I was thinking about...
Here it is springtime and I'm single again. That's weird.
Yeah. So I know that Virginia knows about this, but probably no one else does. I have a piece of paper that I started writing when I was 13 years old, and it's a list of every person I've ever kissed. And I had this one epiphany at one point as I was reviewing the kissing list, that every relationship I've ever had either begins in the fall, so like in October, or September, October, or it begins in the spring.
Right. Because again, you don't have that many opportunities to meet people in the holiday season.
Dr. Kalani Ben-Ari says, in winter, people tend to produce less serotonin, a chemical released by your brain to make you happier, due to lower levels of sunlight exposure. People feel the winter blues and try to compensate for it by actively seeking out a relationship. Additionally, testosterone production tends to peak around October and November, offering a biological reason why those with testosterone might like to couple up. The winter season offers fewer opportunities for outdoor social activities and connection when single people can go out and meet people and have fun and socialize.
Okay, so there's a couple different components. I can't imagine starting to date someone truly, despite what all of the Hallmark movies do, I can't imagine the stress of dating someone new during Christmas when a million things are going on.
Well, it's because you're not a big city corporate lady who goes out to a Christmas tree farm in a small town to enter the local cider contest.
That's true.
So this, again, Dr. Ben-Ari continues, the Christmas period followed by New Year's and Valentine's Day all emphasize family and relationship connection. And this can bring a great deal of loneliness or being the only person without a partner, which leads to relationship seeking behavior. For me, I love New Year's Eve because it reminds me every year of how very isolated I am. Sometimes I will find myself surrounded by couples who are kissing each other at midnight, or if it's a year that I have my kid, I hear all of the fireworks going off while I'm alone in my house with my kid.
I like to work on New Year's Eve. It's my preference, if I can, to have a gig. Doesn't even have to pay that much. Last year, I did have a performance. My sister was kind enough to go. I did let her down by passing out before midnight. I acknowledge all of these things. But the first or second year that I lived in LA, I was invited to a comedian's party. And I was like, this is great. And I was just kind of hanging out and talking to someone. And then the clock struck midnight. And I realized that I'd forgotten what happens at midnight.
Yeah.
And people start kissing each other, all these people who are kind of like coworkers, and this person kind of lunges at me. I ran out of the house and into the street and I left.
That sounds very romantic. That could be the end of one of these Hallmark movies.
Yes. It was just so funny because I think it'd been a couple years since I just went to a party and it really took me by surprise.
I think the holiday blues happen for a variety of reasons. I think it's sort of like every year when a client has a birthday, I usually find that they have a really big slump because I think these are the moments where we're expecting to have like the show Friends, where you have a, birthday party surrounded by people who love you, or you have, a Christmas party with everybody you've ever known in your life showing up and having shenanigans. And I think it also, as we age, getting away from college, mostly high school, college, you're just not going to have as many close friends as you once did because we don't have the same level of exposure to meeting new people. I think for you, Virginia, it's sort of different from maybe the Gen Pop because I don't you're always going to tons of holiday parties because I think of comedy because everyone sees this as a promotional event. But, for me, as a therapist, there's not a whole bunch of therapist holiday parties.
Right. Your work does not throw a big party where everyone gets drunk because your work is just you.
Right. I mean, I guess I could theoretically do that, but that seems like another level of sad that maybe we wouldn't want to get into. But I think part of it is the reality of the Buddhists say all disappointment comes from an unfair comparison. So if I'm making a comparison to what my holiday season is supposed to look like, where I have a healthy family who's nice to me, who cooks a turkey, maybe even. I mean, I remember even for Thanksgiving one year, I hosted it in college at my house. Our family
toaster oven.
Yes. Our family Thanksgiving. And I remember we blew out the breaker because we had too much stuff on.
Because we were trying to boil potatoes and bake something in the toaster oven and something else. Yeah, we blew it out. We had paper tablecloths. But again, Laura was just trying to step up because no one else was going to.
Right. And so when you look at that Thanksgiving, which was a bunch of card tables in my, maybe 400 square foot apartment, it's not a Hallmark movie. It's just not. And so I think that can be discouraging.
One of my favorite family holiday memories from college, my best friend lived in East Texas. And so she was coming down to Houston with me. And then the next day she was going to go back to her parents' house. So it was like Christmas Eve. So we drop in, we're hanging out with my dad in his townhouse in Houston. And I'm like, well, let's wrap some presents. Let's do some Christmassy stuff. I got a lot to do. And my dad's flipping channels and he just lands on pornography and just leaves it on.
Keeps watching it. Because why turn it off when you've got two teenage girls, one of which is your daughter in the house?
One of whom is your daughter.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you guys are all adults. Great. This is fantastic.
So this is what happens when a man with autism and a mood disorder, an extremely dysfunctional family history of his own, is trying to understand or navigate relationships with adult children. So glad Dad is dead. These are terrible. These are really terrible stories. And I would hate for him to hear us talking about him.
I'll also thank God Dad is dead. Like when our mom started having health problems last year, like this is a conversation we had. I'm like, thank God Dad is dead because I would not be able to handle.
No, I wouldn't be able to handle this level of difficulty with him. But yeah, I remember one Christmas, my younger sister and I were both living in Austin. Both of our parents, although they didn't live together, they both lived in Houston. And so we thought, okay, we're going to make this like a 2-for-1 Christmas. We're going to visit each household, on Christmas Day. It's going to be great. So we get to my mom's house and she has no decorations up. She's done absolutely nothing. And I think did she use wrapping paper? I feel like she used newspaper for the gift or two that she had gotten together. And I thought, okay, well, this is bad, but we'll go to Dad's. And I call my father and he says he's not, quote, up to it this year.
Not feeling up to it. Mm-hmm.
And I said, cool. Well, I have driven here. I've driven a car for 4.5 hours to see you. So, get it together. So he saw me on the 26th of December. He came to the door in a bathrobe. I think whatever wife he had at the time had left him or something. And my Christmas gift was a Wells Fargo envelope that he got at the drive-thru with, I think, $50 in it. I think that was the last time I ever went to either of our parents' homes for Christmas. Well, I remember Mom's perspective was, well, you two need to have your own Christmas. And I said, I'm 24 or something. Right. She's a teenager. We're supposed to be hosting Christmas. And the answer is yes, we were. And so I did after that. And I have since then.
I want to talk about, and so my solve is just don't do anything and don't worry about it.
But I'm going to tell you that is a bummer to other people, meaning me.
This Christmas, on Christmas proper, I have bought myself a trip to New Mexico to see a meow wolf. That is what I shall do.
That sounds very festive.
It's my personal celebration.
But yeah, I think the problem with holidays, it's crazy to me that a lady, the Queen of Babylon, had an affair and then made up the story so that they didn't kill her. And now here we are.
Yeah. This is
to cover up the fact that she'd had an affair on her husband. And so as a result, I get sad when I go see my dad.
Yes. A lady cheated on a guy. And now we watch David Bowie sing Little Drummer Boy every year.
And we watch Trading Places.
and we watched Trading Places, and we listened to Mariah Carey singing about how she doesn't want a lot for Christmas.
She doesn't want a lot for Christmas. All she wants for Christmas is you.
I wish I could pull everything that I love out of Christmas, which is being with friends and family, having time off of the corporate rat race, relaxing. But I wish I could pull out everything else, like people feeling compelled to give me gifts that I do not want or need.
Right.
Me being like, I love buying gifts for kids. That's the funnest thing ever. But it's like, you give me something and I have to find a place to put it in my house. I don't want to be a real like Ebenezer Scrooge, but like I would rather just skip it.
You do sound
It's kind of Scrooge-like.
a little bit like Scrooge. I remember actually, I had an ex-partner who did one time say something funny. My brother was married to a lady, and
when we say lady, we're really rounding up.
Anyway, he was married to a person who we decided to do a white elephant Christmas one year. And so I don't remember what the dollar amount was. I think it was like $50. And so you kind of get a random gift and spread it around. And I remember my partner said to my brother's wife, "And what have you guys done? What's your gift? What are you bringing?" And she said, "Oh, we just decided we were going to keep the money and spend it on something we wanted." And he said, "The true spirit of Christmas." So now we're going to talk about what to do during the most difficult time of year.
How to beat the Christmas blues,
So here are some ways that Daniel H. Gillison Jr. has come up with. Apparently, 64% of people with mental illness say that the holidays make their conditions worse. A 2021 survey showed that 3 in 5 Americans feel their mental health is negatively impacted by the holidays. So here are some things you can do. Accept your feelings. So the holidays can bring up a lot of different feelings for people. Sometimes you experience contradictory emotions at the same time. Like you were saying, there's things I like about this. There's also stuff I don't like about it. So it's okay to feel happy. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to have any feeling you're having. So I think acceptance is the key to all our problems today. And that is something that we can do. Maintain healthy habits. I think that's another thing that kind of gets you down because there's downtime off of work. So for many people, the holidays lead to a massive disruption in your day-to-day routines. So maintaining healthy habits like going to therapy, getting enough sleep, exercising, trying to manage your food well is a good idea. Mm-hmm. Setting boundaries. People like to be generous during holidays, but that generosity does come at an expense of having healthy boundaries. If hosting an event or buying an expensive gift is too stressful, you can always say no. It's also okay to limit the time that you spend with friends or family that you might have a complicated dynamic with. That reminds me, I remember I had a client in the past who she could solidly enjoy 24 hours with her family. And so she would fly out to her hometown like at 10 o'clock on Christmas night, go to sleep in a hotel, wake up in the morning, go to her parents, spend the day with them, and then fly right back. And that was her boundary.
That's a great boundary, and that means she gets to have the experience she's prepared for and can handle. And I think that's a great solve.
I think so too. In Understanding and Coping with the Christmas Blues by the British Association of Anger Management, I bet that's a fun group. They say make plans in advance so that you know how and with whom your holidays will be spent. Uncertainty and putting off decision-making can add stress. So a lot of people also feel a lot of stress because there's these obligations and stuff. Shop early and allow yourself to wrap and mail packages to avoid the shopping crunch. Ask for help from your family and your children. Because of internalized misogyny, women tend to think they have to do everything when a team effort can be more fun. Don't buy things you can't afford. Don't allow perfectionism to wear you down. Make time to rest and rejuvenate. Spend time alone to reflect and grieve if necessary. So a lot of the things they talk about is if you've lost a family member or, you've ended a relationship, take time to grieve that during the holiday season and do not isolate. Reaching out to others who also might be lonely is a good idea. If you don't have someone to be with, you can always volunteer. It can be uplifting and gratifying. So in closing, Virginia, what are your takeaways on our holiday episode?
My attitude about Christmas, remains have the Christmas you want to have, don't kill yourself trying to live up to other people's expectations. I have a friend on the social medias who is an event planner. Like that's what she does. Mm-hmm. And she knows everything about how to throw a party, what kind of food, like where to do it. And when she got married in like an Elvis church, like Vegas wedding. They took pictures and then they had a honeymoon. And I respected so much. I'm like, you did exactly what you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. You didn't get saddled with any of the other BS that you didn't have any use for. And I think that has to be an option. Like, especially if you don't have kids, like have the holiday you want to have. Don't worry too much about having the holiday that you should be having.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
So yeah, what you just said reminded me of a TikTok. It's a song, The Magic of the Season is Your Mom. Mm-hmm. Because I find that that's another layer. You know, I feel like I have to create this magical Christmas for my child. And, you know, I saw an SNL episode where everybody's getting all these great gifts and mom just keeps circling back to her robe. Well, you got front row tickets to, you know, Taylor Swift, but I've still got this robe. So I think part of it, I think also if you want to help out the women in your life, that's a good idea. But I agree with you. I feel like have the Christmas that you want. Like these over the top crazy Christmases make me happy. And that's why I do it. I do it because I look at little kids and they're happy and smiling and it's so nice and it's fun. I enjoy traditions because I think our family, you know, just kind of dipped out of tradition so early. And so I want to instill that in my kid. And I think that trying to create perfect magical Kodak moments and make my social media look so great and, you know, wanting everyone in your life to cooperate, like that is a huge bust for me.
Yeah.
So I just focus on what I'm going to do and I'm going to have the most fun that I can during the time.
So we want to thank you guys for listening to this podcast. We've been putting up some pretty good numbers and we're really happy with it. And in this segment, Laura wanted to read a review we've received.
Yes. This is from Further with a PH. It says, great start. 5 stars. The first 2 episodes of this podcast are great, and I look forward to the future episodes. I love the in-depth conversations on topics that may get overlooked or are misunderstood in our everyday discussions. Thank you, and keep up the great work. Thank you, Further. If you guys want to drop us a line and let us know that you think we're amazing, you're welcome to get on Apple or Spotify and give us 5 stars. And if you could write in a review, that would be fantastic.
And if you have a question or something you'd like us to address or a comment, something you just can't keep to yourself any longer, you can write us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com.
And Virginia, where can people reach you if they're trying to get in touch out on social medias?
If you want to get in touch with me on social medias, especially if you're interested in stand-up comedy and my comedy career, you can find me at badinia.com, BADINIA. That's my TikTok. That's my Insta. I also want to say, since this is our holiday episode, if you're in Portland, Oregon, I am traveling to do a festival called the Ha Ha Harvest, basically Thanksgiving weekend. So I'm doing a ton of shows. There's a ton of tickets available.
What are the dates for that again?
That's going to be the 24th, Black Friday of November, to the 27th. The last show that I am doing is Barbara Holmes' show. Everything is going to be okay.
Oh, wonderful.
Laura, where can people find you on social media?
If you'd like to find me on the social medias, you can always check out my TikTok, which I think I currently have 118 followers, so the numbers are growing. I am Laura Ryan, or you can also find me at my professional website, lauraryan.org.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Laura, for a great and varied topic. And for now, we're going to say...
Keep your chin up during the holidays. You can we can do this. It's going to work.
We can do it.
Yeah. We can make a baby, me and you, to quote Trading Places.
And bye-bye.
Bye.